Hello, everybody. Hello. Good morning. My name is Angela Ward. I am the CEO of Guardian at the Gateway, where we help you journey within and return renewed. If you're watching live, please leave me some comments. Say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Or if you're watching the replay, please put replay in the comments. Hey, and if you're watching on YouTube, would you please subscribe to my channel? I always forget to ask people that. So, hey, I do this show every week. My intention with this show is to help give you some meaning for your week, things to think about, contemplate, reflect on, hopefully help you feel better, help you feel like there's more meaning to the experiences that you're having in your life. So, welcome. This week, I would like to discuss our family of origin. And this is such a big topic. I'm so interested in bringing this conversation to you because in my group program, the Full Spectrum Vitality Collective, we're doing community this week, this month. And this week, particularly, we're focusing on family of origin. And as I've been building out the information, I'm like, oh, there's so much good stuff here. The part I want to talk about today specifically, though, is family values. And I know family values seems like a pretty charged phrase. I think it can really be related to the concept of the religious right and the moral majority, for those of you that remember all that nonsense. But that's not what I'm talking about exactly. Maybe a little bit. What I'm curious about, so our family of origin absolutely influences who we are and how we relate and react to the world that we're in. Many of us have this imprinted sense of our family values, our positions and opinions that were formed by the family that raised us and nurtured us to whatever degree they did well or failed at that. It also is part of our ancestral history, so perhaps even further back down our lineage. I like to think about not only the overt stories that we were taught or the things that we learned in a more overt way, but also the continuing evidence we're receiving about epigenetics and how our fetal milieu, our fetal environment, was influenced by our mother's experience and how she was treated while we were in utero. And that actually can activate some of our body's responses. So, for example, there's evidence that fetuses that are exposed to high levels of stress, well, their mothers are very stressed while they're in utero, that they tend to have more sensitivity to cortisol production. There's a bunch of evidence supporting this. I think if you look into the adverse childhood experiences study, you'll find some supporting evidence around this. Gabor Mate speaks about this and epigenetic trauma. I'm sure there's plenty more resources that I don't have at the tip of my tongue. But some other pieces, of course, is what are we told as we're growing up? Maybe they're actual things that your family actually told you, your family of origin actually told you, either about you as a person or about other people or places in society, or you weren't told quite so explicitly, that maybe you learned these things by just being exposed to the behaviors around you. So I'm going to ask you to please get a notepad and paper, because we're going to take a little time to answer some questions and do a little bit of reflection during this topic today. So again, we're talking about the values, perspectives, and maybe prejudices that were implanted, like are part of your epigenetics or taught to you. So while you're getting that pen and paper, just to kind of cover some of the things that your family may have imprinted within you. I've had people definitely say, your family installed the buttons, man. They know how to push them, right? So the things that are interesting to contemplate are what they taught us about work, love, money, relationships, community, societies, religion, politics, diet, recreation, rest, all of those things. And and oftentimes, because these are imprinted in such a way that they're very, very subconscious, we don't necessarily understand that they are influencing our behaviors, either how we act in the world or how we even think about ourselves and the limiting beliefs that we carry about ourselves. So get your pen out, get your paper out, and I would like you to just answer these questions. And I'd like you to not think about them too much. I'd like you to, we're going to talk about money real quick, because this is a big one for people. What's your gut reaction, fill in the blank, when I say money is blank? Money is blank. Now, unless you've done a lot of work on your mindset around money, it's likely the thing that pops up for you is a family value around money and its meaning and a place in your life. So I'd love to see your answer in the chat if you have an answer to that one. I think oftentimes people might answer that one with money is the root of all evil. I've heard that one a lot. Of course, it's a saying. Also, money doesn't grow on trees, I think, is another one people think. How many of you had family members that felt that money was easy to come by and there was plenty of it? I suspect there probably aren't a lot of people that were trained to think that way. My grandmother used to say, this is the thing that I was imprinted and I absolutely love, is she would say, it's only money and you're worth it. And I think that's pretty awesome. Okay, let's move on to the next question. This is about work, or about profession, or about your calling, like how to be an adult, like the adult. To be successful, you must blank. In order to be successful, you must what? What's some of the imprint that your family taught you there? What's the first thing that comes up for you when you hear that? I think this is a really interesting one too, because it can run into a very long list, right? Some things I've heard and that were beliefs for me is that to be successful, you must work really hard, like all the time. To be successful, sometimes I don't even know if my family's success was much of a topic. Maybe. Okay, let's go on to the next question. And this one is discussing your intimate partner relationship. So, relationships are what? Relationships are what? Relationships are a struggle. Relationships are wonderful. We'll tag on another one. Love is blank. Love is blank. What pops up for you when you contemplate that one? There's so many answers there, right? So I would really like you to take some time to think about this, especially if you can compartmentalize it a little bit. Perhaps you'd like to explore this week, because last week we talked about a personal code of ethics. I'd like you to consider perhaps how your family influenced your political perspective, and if that is connected to your values. What portion of your political views were, do you think this way because your family thought this way? Or is this really an authentic personal belief about how you think about things? And does it relate to what you feel for your personal code of ethics or your own personal values? What was your family's value? What if we ask, when we talked about a code of ethics in our last week, what if you consider your family's values around their relationship to religion or their spiritual life? Since so much of that influence comes from there as well. So that's a really interesting one to unpack, to be like, what is actually true for me here? Does it relate to my personal values? Or like how imprinted is this? And as I'm speaking about this, I want to make sure that it's clear that I don't necessarily believe that your family of origin imprinted, gave you things that were necessarily burdens. Might not necessarily be burdens. So like I shared my grandmother's quote, some of those are real gifts. There were some perspectives and gifts that I think really enhance our capacity. So I'm asking you to look at both of these sides. What was your family's perspective around other family members, let's say, and the roles within family, and how maybe children are supposed to show up, how aunts, uncles, grandparents are supposed to be treated? What were some of these like influences that are running just below the surface for you that you have not shed some light on? So as you're starting to examine these this week, be aware, really keep your eyes open, your ears open, your heart open for any cliches that come up, like money is the root of all evil, or that, what's another good one? You can't have your pudding if you don't eat your meat, or whatever. But I mean, that's one around diet, right? Like there's, what beliefs did you learn around those things? A cliche is like the empty plate, the clean plate club, another cliche. So start looking for these. Where are they showing up? And then also your prejudices. This is an interesting one. So here's one. Here's a fill in the blank for you. Poor people are poor because. Poor people are poor because why? Blank. So my family of origin really implied, it's tricky because I had like multiple perspectives. I came from a family with a very strong work ethic and had a lot of pride. My grandparents, I think all of them were children in the Depression era and lived through World War II. So they were very resourceful and could err on the side of over frugality, but at the same time, they also had the capacity to really use what they had and have valuable, take value and care of the things that they had. But it's interesting how it feeds my perspective around what I think about if I'm maybe tipping towards the end of what I would consider poor, or moving into the end of lower financial resources for me. The message I got was I need to work harder. I need to do more. It's not a cliche that's necessarily bad. Something my mother would say with me is if you have $1 in the bank at the end of the month, after paying all your bills, you're doing great. Versus if you have a -$1 in your account after paying the bills. Well, that's, yes, wonderful. And at the same time, it's also giving me this money mindset that it's always better to have just like barely scrape by, in a way. I hope that makes sense. What are some other good questions you might want to unpack that your family shared for you about? Gosh, recreation is a really interesting one to explore. Recreation and rest. I think a message that I learned around rest is that it had to be earned, and that recreation had to be earned. That creativity and play were after, doing the hard stuff, doing the chores. And there's some value in that. And also, it's important for me to know that rest is crucial for me to actually be able to do work efficiently and do really good work. I also require recreation to like prime the creativity pump, right? To let me have different perspectives on the world. So I would love to hear from you over the week about what is percolating to the surface. What do you notice is arising that you are not certain is actually your own belief or value, that instead comes from this lineage of thought and comes from this lineage of belief? And then the next step, I know that's a lot to start with, but maybe just pick one of these areas to start diving in. The next piece is to recognize what happens to you when you start unwinding this. So maybe I was taught that I needed to work hard in order to be successful and to have rest. And that if I needed rest or I wasn't successful, it meant that I was failing at the working hard, which would then put me into this state of shame and a place where I might overdo it or burn myself out. Or it could also lead to a rebellion or an anger. Ooh, that's such a good one. Ellie, I'm going to share that one on the screen. So good. So I got to get the right mouse going. Rest is for the weak. When others are resting, that is when you can get ahead. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You don't need rest. You're weak. And that's a way to take advantage because they're weaker than you are. That's a really good one. Yeah, thanks for sharing that one. So then, based on that one, for example, Ellie, that you just shared, is rest is for the weak. So if you're resting, then that must mean what? What does that mean about you? Right? That one is really intense for me. I'd like to share a family belief that was held. We were raised Catholic pretty intensely. Both sides of my parents' family were pretty Catholic, and my dad's brother rebelled. Wouldn't say rebelled, but he just didn't care. He just didn't care. And at the end of his life, as he was approaching death, because he'd imprinted this belief that he needed to be a certain type of person in order to go to heaven, his last couple months on earth were very tormented because he believed that he had sinned his whole life, really, and that there was no time for him to atone for that. And he died pretty, I think, in a lot of distress and a lot of pain, like not physical pain, physical pain, yes, but also this kind of emotional pain of what was going to happen to him. So this is part of the reason I think it's valuable to reconcile the family values with your personal code of ethics and your personal morals. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just watch the previous week's Midweek with Meaning about our personal code of ethics to help you develop that sense. But let's get really clear about what is yours and what you're saying yes to and what is imprinted. And another reason I think this is important, any work you do to heal this now, if you are a parent or an aunt or uncle or just a mentor to others, the more we can kind of clean our own lineage up, you're breaking that tradition or that cycle for future generations. It's really, really important to unpack some of this stuff. So I look forward to hearing what comes up for you. Yeah, those are my main things. I kind of feel like I want to draw a card because I haven't drawn a card in such a long time. So I'm going to grab a card real quick and I'll be right back. Just because I think, I don't know, the time feels right. It's just post new moon, by the way. Happy new moon day. And we're going to do a Voyager Tarot and just see what the cards have to say about our family and its influence. These are actually really cool cards. I don't know if you've ever seen, I think I've used them before, but they have this on the back, which I was told by the author that it's supposed to be looking down a DNA chain. This mandala is like if you went down, look at a strand of DNA from the top. I don't know. That's pretty cool. So that seems appropriate, right? I think this card wants to come. What is this one? Whoo! Whoo! Well, that's fun. We got the Hanged Man. Let's see if I can make this one stand out for you a little bit. Can you see it? My screen's a little reflecty. I'll see if I can post it in the group. There we go. It's got this whirlpool. It has looks like crucified, looks like statue of Jesus upside down. There's a road over here, it looks like on one side. There's hands cradling something and a face, looks like, and that beautiful bird. Okay, I'm going to read about it and we'll see how the Hanged Man speaks to family of origin. All right. If you know anything about the Hanged Man, you certainly feel free to type it into the chat. Okay, so I can hold this so you can kind of see it. Right there. The upside down hang. Whoa. Victory and success. Am I having website issues? As in the crucifixion of Christ, victory and success are achieved in a manner opposite from any expected. Instead of assertive movement and forceful resistance, salvation is attained through passive surrender. Ooh, that sounds like some good letting go. When feeling hung up, encircled, netted, or walled in, wait it out. Assume a holding pattern. You are in suspense, a limbo that demands that you tread water. Acceptance of your limitations brings expansion. The octopus tentacles, where are the octopus tentacles? They're on the right. They're right here. Sorry, kind of hard to see it. The octopus tentacles signify that you are under constrictive influences beyond your control. Surrender your ego. The feeling that you are drowning and being dragged to the depths that is the dark night of the soul. the preparatory stage for a rebirth and a new life. Do not despair. Feel sorry for yourself. Drown your sorrows in drink or abuse yourself. The Hanged Man is also symbolic of compassionate self-sacrifice. Like Christ, giving yourself up for the good of others enables you to transcend the ego and achieve union with the great spirit of the universe. That sounds really good when we are talking about our family and our family of origin. That I imagine many of us have felt sort of trapped or encircled by our family of origin in the ways that some of these beliefs do not serve. So rather than fighting against them, surrendering them and letting them go is really crucial. But of course, before we can do that, we have to bring them into our awareness. So this week, I invite you to do that. I invite you to share with us and let us know what's coming through for you. And yeah, thank you so much. And we'll talk again next week. Remember to subscribe if you haven't. And, if you like any of this stuff, you guys can share it with your friends and invite them along. That'd be great. All right. Love y'all. We'll talk to you later. Bye.